Waktuku berdiri. Assalamualaikum Mbak Winda. Orang masuk ya.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Environment, but different facilities, right? Well, thank you for those who have shared ideas with me, and let me continue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the first section, that is the learning environments. Yeah, I took the definition from the Glossary of Education Reform. It states that learning environment refers to the diverse physical locations, contexts, and cultures in which students learn. So it will involve physical location, contexts, and cultures. So it means that there are three points that will accomplish learning environments. Yeah. But then when we go through to today's context, the learning environments would be referred to a traditional connotation as a classroom, a room with rows of desks and a chalkboard, for example. Yeah. But actually, a learning environment will involve the all situation and also condition inside of the classroom and also outside of the classroom. And then uh, the term learning environment also encompasses the culture of a school or class, its presiding ethos and characteristics, including how individuals interact with and treat one another, as well as the ways in which teachers may organize an educational settings to facilitate learning. That is why there will be many kinds will encompass, and also many kinds will also influence the learning environments. Yeah. And the learning environments itself will include the characteristics of the learners, and then the goals for teaching and learning, and then the activities that will best support the learning, and then the assessment strategies that will best measure and drive learning, and then also the culture that infuses the learning environment. See, as teachers, we cannot deny that learners has unique characteristics, right? And then in one class, even in one class, a teacher can find various characteristics. Yeah, so it should be the art of learning to cope with various characteristics of the learners. And then the learning environment itself also include the goals for teaching and learning. And then the goal for teaching and learning has been set by the teachers, and then it should be done during the teaching and learning process. And then the activities that also will best support the learning. How can the teacher vary the activities when they carry out the teaching and learning process in class and also outside of the class, if it is possible? And at the end of the process of the teaching and learning, it will also involve the assessment strategies that will best measure and drive the learning. The teacher will know whether the material has been transformed into the students or the learners or not by seeing the assessment. And then the teacher should also be well skilled with the strategies how to assess the students' performances. And then the last is the learning environment will also include the culture that infuses the learning environment. We cannot put aside this culture, since what the students or what the learners do, it will reflect what they usually do at home. Yeah, I have experienced this kind of thing. I applied an active learning activities in one of rural schools in Magelang. Yeah, Magelang is where Borobudur temple lies, yeah, and also situated. Yeah, in that school, I applied active learning activities, but it turns out that um, the girls, yeah, the girls could not mingle with the boys. The boys could also not mingle with the girls. When they were set into groups, yeah, they tend to choose the same sex, right? And when I assign them to work in pairs, they also tend to choose and also to select partners from the same sex. So it seems that culture here, yeah, where the students or where the learners live in, also influence the activities when the students join the class. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to when learning environments is seen from the eye of the teacher. So this is the teacher's perspective of the learning environments. It will be quite uh, complicated when we see this kind of chart. Since when the teachers see the learning environments, the teacher will see the learner's characteristics and then the content of the teaching and learning, and then the skills that should be achieved, and then the learner's support, and then the resources, and also the assessment that the teacher should do at the end of the process. For the learner characteristics point of view, the teacher will also think of the learner's goals, the prior knowledge of the learners, and then also the digital natives, whether the students are familiar with computer or not. And then the diversity of the students and also the diversity of the behaviors and also attitudes and also the learning contexts. And then from the content point of view, the teacher will see the content goals and then the resources and then the structure and then the quantity and also the activities that will best support and also best transfer the content to the teaching learning process. And then the skills point of view, a teacher will see the thinking activities or what kind of activities that force thinking, yeah. And then the discussions, how to engage the students in the discussions. It will be quite difficult and quite hard if we use this kind of activity when we carry out the class in rural areas. And then also the skill goals. Yeah, the skills that should be achieved at the end of the teaching and learning process. And also the practical activities is the follow-up. And then from the learner support, a teacher will also see and will also think about counseling, about scaffolding, about feedback, and also about the other students. And then from resources, the teacher will also think about the technology, the facilities, the assistance, and a teacher will also need her time, right? And then in terms of assessment, a teacher will select which kind of assessment will best assess the students' performances. Should a teacher use projects? Should a teacher use e-portfolios or even tests or even essays? Yeah. And this is the learning environment from the teacher's perspectives. So as a teacher, you might think very complicatedly, right? Well, ladies and gentlemen, learning environment itself can be positive and can be negative. The learning environment will be positive if it can make the students feel comfortable, confident in class. So, of course, when the students feel comfortable and also confident in class, it will force the students' achievement. And the students can show the best in them. And then learning and environment itself can be also negative. When the learning environment is negative, it means that it will affect the learners and the students will perform low achievement. The students will also perform poor behavior, and the students also will experience anxiety. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is when we face the positive learning environments. Yeah. When students are in positive learning environments, they will feel comfortable. Yeah, it is a place where healthy relationship with the peers and also the teachers flourish. Yeah. And then the process of learning becomes something that the students easily to adapt and look forward to. As educators, we also recognize that when the students are placed in positive learning environments, they will feel comfortable enough to explore the environments and also the surroundings. The students will also show their authentic curiosity and also paint the world with their unique and individual brushstrokes. Every single student is unique. They will have their own brush and they will have their own brush strokes. And then see, as teachers, establishing positive learning environments will need energy. Yeah, since it will also support the learning culture and then also address the learners' needs and also encourage the students or the learners' involvement in all activities both in class and also outside of the class. In such situation, the situation will help improve students' attention and then reduce anxiety and also support emotional and behavioral regulation of the students. Yeah. And then the students will be more likely to acquire higher motivation that leads to wonderful learning outcomes. Yeah. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, those that I have mentioned will happen when the students are in positive learning environments. Then, what happens if the students are plunged into negative learning environment? Well, ladies and gentlemen, could you please share ideas? What will happen if the learners or students are plunged into negative learning environment? Let me see the uh, let me see the chat box. Yeah, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Are you with me? Oh, discover new knowledge. Oh, students are passive. Oh, thank you, Ibu Zainab. And then Ibu Lela, not motivated to learn, lack of focus. Okay, good. Thank you, Ibu Lela. They are going to be less motivated to learn and discover new knowledge. It is from our moderator. Oh no, from Pak Arif. Yeah. And then also, oh yeah, from Pak Ashraf, confused. Oh yes, of course. Yeah, this kind of situation will make the students confused. Yes, they will be less motivated. Yes, they will be passive. Yes, yeah, they will what we call it. They will have lack of focus. Yes. Then, sorry. Then, when the students are plunged into the negative learning environments, do you think, as teachers, that the objective of learning would be achieved? Yeah, when the teacher have set the learning objectives, but the process of the teaching and learning, it seems that it yields a negative learning environments. The students are afraid to do something, the students are irritated, and then they are sleeping in class, and then they are asking permission to go to the toilet one by one. Yeah, then what happens? Oh, don't show interest. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, that situation will happen when the students are in negative learning environments. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, we come to the second sections of my presentation, that is kinds of learning environments. And I took it from Firestone. Kinds of learning environment will involve the physical environments, the condition that can be captured physically. And then, oh my God, triple L, mistyping, yeah. And then psychological environments, it will show how the students feel about the learning. And then instructional environment, it will be the setting of all the teaching. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will come through these kinds of learning environment one by one. The first, it is physical environment. The use of space include how furniture is arranged and organized, how materials are stored and maintained, and how clean the classroom is, and overall color and also brightness. Yeah. In short, we can say how the classroom is organized, set, arranged in particular purposes. Where we call it a physical environment. Since this environment can be captured physically, can be seen physically. When I share this one, when I show you this picture, might be this picture is not quite clear. Yeah, this picture depicts the situation of a classroom, of a very typical classroom. Yeah, and I believe that this one is not the classroom in rural areas. Yeah, this is the classroom in the cities. Yeah, and how to design this, and then how to place books, pictures, whiteboard, and then the teachers' desks, and then also how to arrange the students' desks, how to access the class, how will you organize the plans. Yeah, and then also how you also organize or keep up with the noise from outside. How will you decorate the wall decoration? How about the layout? Is it for group work? Is it for pairs? Is it for classical activities? And then how about the movement in class? Yeah. Can it have every room? when the students are in the class? Is it too crowded? And this kind of consideration will be taken into account when the teacher will set a class. Yeah, this is the physical environment that could be seen. I will show you this picture. Yeah. What can you say about the physical environments of this class? Dear ladies and gentlemen, can you share ideas from the chat box? Yeah, what do you think of the learning environments, physical learning environments? Oh, yeah. From, this one. From Ibu Zainab, it's conducive. Yes, it seems to be conducive. And then from Pak Arif, spacious. Yes, it seems to be spacious when the chairs and also the desks are set tidily and then properly lit. Oh, yes. It has sufficient lighting, right? Sufficient lighting. And then from Ibu Rolista, very comfortable for learning. It seems to be. Yeah? And from Ibu Lela, very conducive. Again, yes. Looks expensive. Indeed, it looks expensive. Yeah. Yeah, well, in creating or in constructing and also organizing the physical learning environments, it will depend 100% of the students' creativity and also the students' innovation. Yeah. And it also depends on the learning objectives that will be achieved during the teaching and learning process. Yeah. Well, Ibu Lela, how could you say that it looks expensive? You see the quality of the desks or the chairs or even the floors. Yeah. Well, dear ladies and gentlemen, let me show you the next picture. Yeah. Or the next picture would be psychological environment. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we come to a psychological environment. Yeah. Well, this is actually for psychological environment, it will relate with how the students feel when they are learning, how they feel, how the learners feel when they are in the class, when they join the teaching and learning process. It will involve the specific rules and also consequences that are posted in the classroom. And then the teacher has a calm and passionate demeanor and focus on helping students to learn both intellectually and also socially. And then the teacher also maintains the positive control of her classroom by being a role model for kind words and also actions. And then in psychological environment, it will be also seen from whether the teacher knows that the student react negatively when they feel things are unfair or unclear or worried about getting into trouble. And then also in creating psychological environment, the teachers should be clear and consistent, offer praise and also gratitude, and set good example. Therefore, the students are confident and comfortable in the classroom. When the learners or the students feel confident and comfortable, they will absorb and also implement in their brain what they learn easily, right? Because they are not under pressure, they are not afraid, yeah, but they are confident, comfortable, and of course, more motivated. Yeah. Then, when you see this picture, do you think that the students experience good psychological environment? Do they enjoy learning? Do they enjoy learning? Oh, yes. Yes, of course. How do you know? How can you say so? Looks casual. Yes, they can communicate with other students casually. What else? They enjoy the activities. Yes. Oh, yeah. They participate actively in class. Yes. Good. Thank you, dear audiences. Yeah. It seems that this class have every room, and then it reflects and also depicts positive learning environments, and also the students there feel comfortable and also confident in communicating with others, and then working together, and then collaborating with others. You can see it. All of them are serious, but all of them look what we call it. They enjoy their own role. Yeah, there are students writing, there are students discussing, there are also students organizing things. Yeah. And then, what about this? Do they also experience the same thing? Yes. Yeah, Ibu Susanti, Ibu Aulia Raihan, yes. Yeah. You can see it from their happy faces. Yeah, this one is more close, a closer look. Yeah, this is a closer look of the student's face. Have a look at their faces. They are smiling, even laughing, right? So it seems that they really enjoy the learning process. Yeah. And then the next kinds of environment is the instructional environment. For the instructional environment, of course, it will be related to the teacher since the teacher is the instructor of the class. So it will relate to the documents and also the media and also everything that should be prepared by the teachers before the teaching and learning process. We can see it. The teacher plans their instruction to make sure the students are able to comprehend by using different teaching practices, right? Such as lecture, hands-on activities, cooperative learning groups, and plenty of small group and individual practices. We have lots of kinds of activities in active learning and also in engaging students to have fun activities while learning. And then the instructional environments remains positive and upbeat with the air of fun and excitement. The students will find learning interesting and fun, which means that they're engaged and will remember the content long term. Yeah, how fun will it be, right? As teacher, you will feel really happy and really excited when your students will remember the content long term until you have the assessment so that you will be really successful with the teaching and learning process. Yeah. And then what do you think of the instructional environment of this class? the instructional learning environment of this class? What do you think? Does the teacher prepare everything so that she can carry out and conduct the class actively using various kinds of medias? Yes, from Aulia Raihan, yeah. Thank you. Well prepared. Okay, the teacher as well is well prepared. Thank you, Ibu Susanti. Well prepared. Thank you, Ibu Rolista. Yeah. Well, from the picture, we can see that the teacher is using sticky notes, colorful, yeah, and then also plano paper, and also whiteboard, but it is not a chalkboard anymore. Yeah, thank you. And then the next, yeah, as a teacher, you have to prepare everything before you conduct the teaching and learning process. What kinds of documents should a teacher prepare before she enters the classroom? What kinds of documents? Yeah, I will see it from the chat. What kinds of documents should the teacher prepare? Let me see. Lesson plan. Oh, yes, thank you. Pak Arif. Yeah, Mr. Arif. What else? Instead of lesson plan. Instead of lesson plan. Or teaching materials. Ibu Lela, yeah. Thank you, Ibu Lela. Teaching materials, yes, of course. Lesson plan and then teaching materials, yes. Any more? Oh, learning materials. Okay, yeah. And then Ibu Jainab, yes, material. Oh, yeah, good. Thank you for those who have been participating. And ladies and gentlemen, now we come to this one. Yeah, this I propose this kind of environment-based learning. When the learning would be influenced by the four environment, the physical environment that we have learned previously, and then psychological environment, yeah, that we have also learned previously, and then the instructional environment, and I add one more, that is social environments. It is actually the culture and norms. Sorry. It is actually the culture and norms in the community where the students live in. Just like the example that I have shared to you previously, I taught the class, one particular class in one rural area in Magelang, and then it happens to be at the slope of Mount Merbabu. If you happens to be there, the situation and the physical environments is really actually not quite enticing. Yeah, and then the active learning can run, but it's not in an optimum way. Yeah, why is it like that? It is since that the students live in different culture and norms. Yeah, they live in a culture that the girl will have limited contact with the opposite sex before they get married. So it happens that at that time, I plunged myself into a research for a junior high school. So teenagers, yeah. And in that teenagers, they have limited contact with the opposite sex while they are doing activities, even though the activities are parts of active learning activities. Yeah, I created and I set if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 kinds of activities in one meeting. And then when I assign them to work in group, it seems that they tend to choose and select the members of the group from the same sex. They don't have what we call it. They don't have much ability, not ability. They don't have much possibility and also time to contact or to collaborate with the opposite sex. Yeah, that was the condition when I was having a research in schools in rural areas. Yeah, this one. What happens in the picture? What happens in the picture? Do you think that they come from different or the same social environment? Do you think that the students, the members of this class, are from the same or different social environment? Oh, different. Okay, good. When the students are from different social environments, it will influence the way the learners or the way the students took part in the activities. It will be based on the norms and also cultures from where the students live in. We cannot put it aside since the social environments also influence the students' participation in class. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the third section, that is the awareness of learning environment. If we are aware of learning environment or we engage in the engaged learning environment, what will happen? Yeah. Engaged learning environment increases students' attention and focus, promotes meaningful learning experiences, encourages higher level of students' performance, and also motivates students to practice higher level critical thinking skills. So we've got abundant beneficials of having positive and engaged learning environments. Since when the students' attention and focus increases, it will be good for them. It will be good as well for the teachers. When the learning environment promotes meaningful learning experiences, it indeed enriches the students' experience. And then when the learning environment encourages high levels of students' performance, it means that you have done scaffolding and you have encouraged your students' performance into their best, into their best, the best in the students. And then when the teachers are engaged in engaged learning environment, it will motivate students to practice high level critical thinking skills. And this skill is badly needed nowadays. And then this is also the benefits of engaged learning environments. It increases students' interaction with peers and also teachers, since the students will feel comfortable, confident in class, so they have good interaction with the peers and also the teachers. And then It provides students with frequent feedback. Yeah, the feedback, of course, can be from the peers and can be from the teachers. Since we also recognize the peer feedback and also teachers' feedback. And then it requires increased time, effort, and investments for tasks. Indeed, it requires effort from the teachers and also investments, of course. And then it offers students the opportunity to apply their learning in other situations. It means that they will apply what they've got in class into a real life situation. And then it gives the opportunity to experience diversity, since the students will also recognize that students are unique personality. So when one class have 20 students, it means that the teacher will recognize 20 kinds of personality, right? So the students will be living in the experience of diversity when they are in class. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to types of educational researches involving learning environment. Of course, this one I will give you only a glance, yeah? Since there are a lot more types of educational researches can be involved related to the learning environment. So I will only give you a glance. Yeah. And then the first, for the educational researches could be divided into 5 sections. Yeah. The first is quantitative research, and then qualitative research, and then mixed method research, and then action research, and then also R&D, research and development. Yeah, for quantitative research itself, it will comply on the experimental research and also non-experimental research. For the qualitative research, it has a lot, since it has phenomenology, ethnography, narrative inquiry, case study, grounded theory, and also historical research. And then for mixed method, of course, it is combining quantitative and also qualitative. And then for action research, in short, that the action are conducted in cycles. And then for research and development, of course, it will create new products or it validates existing products. Well, well, ladies and gentlemen, now we come through these educational researches one by one, but at a glance. Yeah. Only at a glance. Yeah. The first, I took it from Creswell. Quantitative research would be divided into experimental research and also non-experimental research. And then for experimental research, it will be also divided into 3. The first is pre-experimental research. This is the simplest research, yeah, in the world. And then quasi-experimental research, since in Bahasa Indonesia, we call it as quasi-experimental, right? So it is quasi-experimental research. And then the highest is true experimental research. Related to the learning environments, when we do pre-experimental research, we can explore the student's condition. And of course, since it's experimental research, so it should have treatment. So for pre-experimental research, the treatment will be done once and also in one group. And then for quasi-experimental research, it would be at the next level. And then the highest level would be through experimental research. And then for non-experimental research, it would be divided into 2. The first is causal comparative research, and then correlational correlational research. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, when we come through this kind of researches one by one, only a glance, this is the pre-experimental research. It is the simplest form of a research design. Since it is a single group or multiple groups are observed subsequently, so, and then or treatment presumed to cause change. And then the design can be one short case study design, and then one group pre-test, oh, we missed the T there, pre-test and post-test design. And the next is static group comparison. When for one short case study design, there is only a single group is studied at a single point in time after some treatment that is presumed to have caused change. There is no control or no comparison group is employed. So the group is only one, and you also give the treatment to that group. That is that is we call as one short case study design. And then the second design is one group pre-test and post-test design. It means that a single case is observed at two time points, one before the treatment and one after the treatment. Changes in the outcome of interest are presumed to be the result of the intervention or the treatment. No control or comparison group is employed since it's one group, right? So it's only one. And then the static group comparison, a group that has experienced some treatment is compared with one that has not. Observed differences between the two groups are assumed to be the result of the treatment. Yeah, this is when you are doing pre-experimental research. Can you imagine that you are doing this kind of research and you select one of this design, and then you are plunged into a particular learning environment, right? Can you imagine what kinds of topic you will be working on? Oh yeah, no. Um, oh, yeah, there is no comments in the chat box. Now, it's better for me to go to the next. Yeah. The next is quasi-experimental research. Yeah. This kind of research aims to establish a cause and effect relationship between the independent and dependent variable. Yeah. The quasi-experiment does not rely on random assignment. The subjects are assigned to groups based on non-random criteria. That is why we call it as quasi half experiment. Yeah. And then this design is a useful tool in situations where true experiments cannot be used for the reasons of ethical and practical reasons. Yeah. Sometimes we are plunged into quasi-experimental research because of the situation and condition. Well, and then the types of the quasi-experimental design could be, this is non-equivalent group designs, and then regression discontinuity, and then also natural experiments. Well, for non-equivalent group design, groups are not random. So that is why the group is similar. And then for regression discontinuity, individuals just below the threshold as the control group. for this one, we will know that there is a rank, a rank for the subject. And then in the rank, there will be divided into two groups. Yeah. And then at the borderline between the higher group and the lower group, yeah. And then the line there, we call it as a threshold. And then, so for regression discontinuity, the researcher will have research on the person who are sitting just above the threshold and below the threshold. And then for natural experiments, it is observational in nature. It means that it is no control over the independent variable, sorry. And for the next is through experimental research. This is the highest, yeah. This kind of design is, this kind of design is a statistical proof to establish a cause and effect relationship between different variables. This is one of the most accurate forms of research design, which provides a substantial backing to support the existence of the relationships. Why can we say so? Since it has, the substantial backing. What does it mean? It means that it has statistical calculation, to support the existence of relationship. And then, see, this is the criteria of conducting a true experimental research. So there is the existence of a control group. There is a treatment group and then also control group. And then the presence of the independent variable. That is the variable that influence the working of other variables. Yeah. And then random assignment. What does it mean? It means that participants must be randomly distributed within the groups. Yeah, we cannot just choose, oh, this class as control group and this class as treatment group. So you cannot do that since you have to put them in random. And then what are the advantages of having true experimental research? Ladies and gentlemen, since the true experimental research is the most accurate research, so it has concrete method of research. It is easy to understand and replicate. It establishes comparison. Yeah. And then it is also conclusive. Since true experiment combines observational and also statistical analysis to generate informed conclusions. Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the next kind of research that is causal comparative. For this one, for causal comparative research, it examines potential causes for observed differences found among existing groups. So say, for example, when you are plunged into a typical classroom and then you want to know the achievement between two different sexes. How about male students and female students? Do they have different achievements? Yeah. And then in this kind of research, it is useful for the study of causes where experimental assignment or manipulation is invisible, unethical, and prohibited. And then it is also similar to correlational research design, except that the independent variable to be tested is categorical, especially for example, schools or class membership. Yeah. And the analysis explicitly attempt to test causality. And then it is frequently used with large scale or survey data. Well, what is the difference between this one and the correlation research? Yeah, the difference is this one. Actually, causal comparative doesn't rely on relationship, but correlation will rely on relationship. Yeah. And the next, the researcher will compare two groups. Yeah. To find out whether the independent variable affected the outcome or the dependent variable. And also, this is actually study cause and effect and determine consequences or causes of differences that already exist among or between groups of people. And then this is the characteristics of causal comparative. The first is that this method tries to identify cause and effect relationships, and then two or more groups are included as variables since it's comparative, so there will be not only one group, two or more groups are included. And then individuals are selected randomly, and then independent variables can be manipulated. It helps save time and money. And then the next would be correlational research. For the correlational research, it investigates the relationships. That is why it is called correlation, since it investigates relationship between variables without the researcher controlling or manipulating any of them. Yeah. So the direction of the correlation can be either positive or negative. So what does it mean then when the relation is positive? And what means when the relation is negative? So positive correlation would be both variables change in the same direction. Yeah. This is the example. As height increases, weight also increases. Yeah. So when the motivation increases, the achievement also increases. Yeah. And then for negative correlation, the variables change in the opposite directions. Yeah, as coffee consumption increases, tiredness decreases. Yeah. As the level of anxiety of students' anxiety increases, and then the students' achievement will be decreases. And then the next is what happens if there is zero correlation? It means that there is no relationship between the variables. This is only the consumption, the example. Coffee consumption is not correlated with height. Yeah, this is only the example. And the next is types of correlational research. The first is the explanatory design, and then the next is the prediction design. And for the explanatory design, it investigates two or more variables. It collects data at one point of time. It analyzes all participants as a single group. It obtains at least two scores for each individual in the group. One in the group, one for each variable. And then it reports the use of correlation statistical tests in the data analysis. And then it also makes interpretation and also draw conclusions from the statistical test results. So what happens to the prediction design? For this kind of design, it includes the word prediction in the title. It measures the predictor variables at one point in time and the criterion variable at a later point in time. Of course, since it's prediction, it will forecast future performance. Ladies and gentlemen, those that I have shared are grouped into quantitative research. And then what happens to qualitative research? Yeah, I will go through very fast. Qualitative research involves collecting and also analyzing non-numerical data to understand concepts, opinions, and also experiences. Yeah, it can be used to gather in-depth insights into a problem to generate new ideas for research. And then for qualitative researches, yeah, from Jensen and Christensen, there are phenomenology, ethnography, narrative inquiry, case study, grounded theory, and also historical research. For phenomenology, the researcher attempts to understand how individuals experience a particular experience. And then for ethnography, it will discover and describe culture of groups of people. And then for narrative inquiry, it will tell stories of life experience. And then case study will focus on one particular case. And then for grounded theory, it means it generate and develop a theory from data. And then historical research, yeah, it will go deeply on people, places, and also events, but all of them are in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the first kinds of qualitative research, that is phenomenology. This kind of research will attempt to understand how people experience a phenomenon from each person's own perspective. The goal is actually to enter the inner world of each participant to understand his or her perspective or experience. So you can imagine then. So when it is related to the learning environment, so you can also, as researchers, you can set the topic on the students having experience of active learning, say for example. And then you will go deeply to every single student. And then the next is ethnography. Ethnography. This is the most popular approach in qualitative research in education. It is about people. It describes the culture of a group of people and learns what it is like to be a member of the group from the perspective of the members of the group. So the researcher will plunge himself into that group of people. It documents the shared attitudes, and then values and norms, practices, patterns of interactions, and then perspectives, and also language of that group. Yeah. And then it is also interested in material things that the group members produce or use, such as clothing styles, ethnic foods, or architectural styles. The ethnographers use holistic descriptions. It means that they will describe how the members of the group interact and how they come together to make up the group as a whole. Yeah, for this one, it needs time and of course, money. Yeah. And then, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the next kinds of qualitative research, that is narrative inquiry. This one records the experiences of individual or small group, revealing the life experience or particular perspective of that individual, usually primarily through interview, which is then recorded and ordered into a chronological narrative, often recorded as biography, life history, or in the case for older or ancient traditional style, a traditional story recording, it is oral history. Yeah. So narrative inquiry is really working hard on language. And then what is the strength of this kind of qualitative research, narrative inquiry? This kind of research reveals in-depth detail of a situation or life experience. It can reveal historically significant issues not elsewhere recorded. And this one was considered a way to democratize the documentation and life experience of a wider gamut of society. In the past, only rich could afford this since a wider gamut of society. But now, narrative inquiry are developing again. People are clinging into this one again. Yeah. And then, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the next, that is case study. Just like the title, it is case study. So the study will be focused on the case, one single case. It is a detailed study on a specific subject, yeah, of a group, of a person, a group of people, event, organization, or phenomenon. It is commonly used in social, educational, clinical, and also business researches. Yeah. This one is good for describing, comparing, evaluating, and understanding different aspects of research problem. And then grounded theory. Yeah. This kind of research, yeah, will enable researcher to develop a theory which offers explanation about the main concern of the population of a substantive area and how that concern is resolved or processed. Yeah, it guides you on matters on data collection and details of rigorous procedures for data analysis. Yeah. You can use quantitative data or even qualitative data, but it should yield on a theory. And then in terms, grounded theory is used in two ways. If you adhere the strictures of grounded theory, the research method, you will engage in a research process that will produce, or a theory which is grounded in data, that is grounded theory. And then the next is historical research. It is a procedure of supplementary to observation in which researchers seek to test the authenticity of the reports or observation made by others. Historical research involves analysis of events that occurred in the remote or recent past. Of course, it's historical since it happens in the past. Yeah. It is about people, places, and events in the past. It presents the results through stories or narrative. Yeah. The next is mixed method research. It combines the elements of quantitative research and also qualitative research in order to answer the research question. This kind of research can help gain more complete picture than a standalone quantitative or qualitative study, as it integrates the benefits of both methods. This might be the right choice if your research process suggests that quantitative or qualitative data alone will not sufficiently answer your research question. And then the design of mixed method can be convergent parallel, can be embedded, can be explanatory sequential, can be exploratory sequential. Yeah, so for students who are really interested in having mixed method researches, you can choose which design that you're going to use. Yeah. Uh, the next is the action research. Yeah. For the action research is actually, this is also the combination of quantitative and also qualitative. But the process is done or the treatment is conducted in cycles. And then the design of action research could be individual. Yeah, it could be individual. This one is conducted by one teacher or staff member. This kind of design is conducted to analyze a specific task. Yeah, a teacher may wonder if implementing group activities within an English class will help improve learning. Yeah, this one is the situation. Yeah. After the action is performed, the teacher analyzes the results, implements changes, or discards the program if not found to be helpful. That is why it is done in cycles. Yes, cyclic activities. And then the second design is collaborative research. It involves a group of people researching a specific topic. With this collaborative research, one or more person is involved in the implementation of the new program. Yeah, so the group would be larger. And then many times, collaborative research involves both teachers and also principal. And this joint collaboration often offers more benefits than individual action in the research approach. The next is the scope-wide research. So the scope is wider. Yeah, the scope is wider. The entire staff will work together through this research to study the problem, implement changes, and correct the problem or increase performance. Yeah, since this is school-wide, so it will be the entire school. And then the last is the district-wide. This one is much wider. Yeah, much wider, since it will cope with district-wide schools. And then the procedures is just this one. If you are in educational research, as a classroom action research is your daily, it's a piece of cake for practitioners and also lecturers and also students in the educational background. Since there is also planning, action, observation, and also reflection, and they are done in cycle. Cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, and so forth. And the next is research and development. Ladies and gentlemen, Yeah. Based on Borg and goal, educational research and development is a process used to develop and validate educational products. The term products here can include material products and also procedures and processes. Yeah. For material products, it will involve textbooks, instructional films, and so forth, or materials, instructional materials, and so forth. And then for procedures and processes, it will be method of teaching or method of organizing the instruction. And then this is also from Gall and Borg. Yeah. Actually, it is an industry-based development, yeah, in which the finding of the research design the new products and procedures, which then systematically field tested, evaluated, and refined until they meet specified criteria of effectiveness, quality, or similar standards. Yeah. And then the characteristics of research and development, that is that it or this research solves real problems. It supports student achievement. There is a validation by the experts, and there is the development, and the development is documented. Yeah, this is the characteristics. And then the steps when you follow Borg and Gall, there will be 10 steps. Yeah. Problem and potency, and then data collection, product design, design validation, and then design revision. And then this one is design validation from the expert, and then design revision if there are some revision from the expert, and then product testing, and then product revision, and then application testing, and then product revision, and then the 10 steps is the dissemination. There's 10 steps if you as a researcher follow the steps from Borg and Gall. When you follow the step of research and development from Dick, Carey, and Carey, there will be also 10 steps. Identify the instructional goals, and then conduct instructional analysis, and then analyze learners and context, and then write performance objectives, and then develop assessment instrument, and then followed by developing instructional strategy, and then it is followed by developing and selecting instructional materials, and then design and conduct formative evaluation of instruction, and then revise the instruction, and then the last design and conduct the summative evaluation. This kind of steps of research and development if you follow Dick and Carey. And then the next is when you follow from Acker. So the research and development only have 4 steps. The first is preliminary investigation, where you state the problem and also state of the art of the research. And then the theoretical embedding, it is applying state-of-the-art knowledge in articulating theoretical rationale. And then empirical testing, it is intended target group in real user setting. And then the last step is documentation, analysis, and reflection on process and outcomes. So from Acker, there are only 4 steps. And then there are also 4 steps, but it is from Tyagarajan, Smell and Smell. Define, design, develop, and disseminate. Define, the researcher will have the preliminary research, and then design, the researcher will design theoretically, and then develop. It means that the researcher will develop the preliminary product, field testing, revision, and validation from the expert. And then the last is disseminate, means disseminating to broader population. And then the next is from branch. We call it as AD approach. This is also one approach of research and development. AD stands for analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluation. We can distribute this kind of steps into introduction and exploration phase, that is analyze. So the researcher will do need analysis and also getting information on the existing model. And then model development phase, it is design, verify the design performance, and then also develop, generate, and validate the learning resources. It means that the validation will be done by the expert. And then model validation phase. Yeah, this one means that it is evaluating and also implementation. Assess the model both before and after the implementation. And then for the implement, prepare the learning environment and engage the students. Yeah, this is the distributions of the 5 steps of AD approach. And then the next is actually when you are doing research and development, there are 4 basic steps. The first is introduction and exploration phase. Yeah. So you have to identify the need analysis and also the learning gap. And then the second basic step is the model development phase. It is designing the intended model. And then the next is validation phase. It can be done through expert judgment or focus group discussion. And then the next is dissemination phase. It is implementing the products into wider subjects. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it seems that we come to the end of my presentation. And I do hope that all members, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, all members of this webinar will say, yes, I understand, right? Yeah. And the last is thank you. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of my presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I will give the time back to moderator. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much to our esteemed speaker today, Dr. Sri Sarwanti. Yes, I understand. That's all I want to say. And while we still have a little bit of time, I am going to open this session for a very quick Q&A session. If you have things that you would like to ask with regards to today's sharing session, kindly type your question in the chat box, or you can also raise your hand virtually and you will be given the chance to ask the question directly to Dr. Sri. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I will be opening the session for Q&A session. And one more reminder from the organizer, the attendance and also the feedback form is also available in the chat box right now. Please go to the Google form as indicated in the chat box and please fill in the forms accordingly. But again, I would like to again open the session to any question from anyone.
It seems that everybody say, yes, I understand.
I thought I was the only one.
Okay.
um, yeah, but I will have to say that it is a very interesting topic because before this I was not sure what the content would be all about because I was wondering if it's related to environment, but it is related to learning environment, which is something that is especially relevant in today's education landscape. One question, if you don't mind me asking, I'm being very selfish here. I'm the moderator. I'm also asking a question. Oh yes, okay. hold on to that thought because I am going to forward the question that I received from Ibu Rolisda from Universitas from Untidar. Does it imply that environment-based learning is more indirect and observational compared to the traditional one? I repeat, does it imply that environment-based learning is more indirect and observational compared to the traditional one? Dr. Sri, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ibu Rolista, for the questions. Yeah, and then uh, one word comes into my mind is that the traditional one, it would be the traditional condition of teaching and learning process where the teacher is the center of everything. Do you mean like that? Yeah. See, when we apply or imply the environment-based learning, it means that we have to pay attention to the four kinds of learning environments: the physical environment, and then the psychological environment, instructional environment, and also social environment. If a teacher then is aware of this one, hopefully the teaching and learning process that he or she will conduct would be conducted efficiently, effectively, and fun. Since the students in her class, in his or her class, will feel confident and also comfortable. From the theories of learning, oh, why my voice is echoing? Yeah, from the theory of learning, if the students feel confident, feel comfortable, it means that all the materials that all what the teacher presents would be easily absorbed. The students will learn those kind of material more easily. Yeah. And when we can say that it is more indirect and observational, maybe yes and maybe no. Observational, yes, it can be observed. Indirect, since environment-based learning is also direct. Yeah, that is my answer, Ibu Rolista. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Rolista, and also thank you, Dr. Sri. Maybe your voice is echoey because one of the co-hosts' microphone is not muted. I was afraid to unmute because I was afraid that I was going to unmute the wrong person, and then we are not going to be able to listen to to your answer. Okay, comment from Ibu Rolista, crystal clear. Thank you, Ibu. And again, I would like to also welcome one or two more questions if possible. And I would also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and also to thank the head of education from UITM Shah Alam, Dr. Ahlam Aziz. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for dropping by. And yes, thank you very much once again. Again, one more question perhaps, or two more questions perhaps with regard to today's topic.
Yes, I understand.
Okay. I'm going to try and perhaps mute one of the other two. I think we okay. Oh yes, okay. So Mufida Amalia Ahnaf, the co-host. This one is not muted, so I believe Ibu's Sri's voice will be much clearer from this perspective. Again, any question from anyone? Okay, I guess I can be selfish now. I can ask my question. Dr. Sri, the question that I would like to ask you is, yes, let's talk about the C word today, COVID-19. Um, And you mentioned just now there are 4 types of environment-based learning: psychological environment, psychological environment, sorry, physical, psychological, social environment, and also instructional environment. In your opinion, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected us greatly in the area of learning environment, and which one of these 4 areas is most drastically affected? That is the only thing that that comes to my mind right now. Ibu? And I'm sorry, Ibu. I'm just going to unmute you because your voice is not clear just now.
Oh,
Yes, okay, it's clear
is
now.
my voice okay then?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
okay now. Please proceed.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, it's really interesting since this kind of learning environment is related with the current condition that is in the pandemic situation. But then in the pandemic situation, everything is done virtually, right? And then it will be quite difficult to set up the physical environments, yeah, into account since the students are not sitting in a real life class. But then we have to focus on the psychological environment since it will reflect how the students feel in the learning process. Even though the learning process is done virtually or online learning process, and the students still feel that they enjoy the learning. It's fun to learn in that way. Yeah. And to set up such as positive psychological learning environment, the teacher should prepare the instructional environment as well. The material, the media, the platform, yeah. And then sometimes also some application that might be needed. Yeah, and social environments. For this one, I think since the students are not communicating in the real life, they only communicate virtually in the cloud. So for social environment is not emphasized. So the kinds of environments that is really emphasized is the psychological and instructional environment. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sri. And perhaps one last question in the chat box from Ibu Zainab herself. Is there any drastic change in education during the pandemic in Indonesia? If you can just summarize what are the changes caused by the pandemic in Indonesia. Dr. Sri, over to you.
Yes. Of course, yes, as you wish. Thank you, Ibu Zainab, for the questions. Is there any drastic change in education during the pandemic in Indonesia? Of course, there is drastic change. But we can categorize it into two. Not really drastic change for schools when the schools is located in the cities. But when the schools are located in the rural areas, yes, they undergo drastic changes. Since physical teaching and learning process could not be conducted, they have to have the classes online, and then the teachers and also the students in rural areas have difficulties in getting the instruments. Some of the students even do not have the smartphones and so on, also laptop, to have the classes. And since the area in rural area in Indonesia, they have also difficulties in the quality of the internet connection. Yeah, and then I might say that the teaching and learning process cannot done effectively for the schools in rural areas. And on the other hand, for the schools in the cities, I think, yes, there is a change, but it is not drastically, since the students and the teacher are familiar with digital activities. The students are having laptop by their own PCs, and then the teachers as well, so they can have the teaching and learning process virtually. But the difficult things is that since the students and the teacher, some of them are not used with that. Yeah. So the difficulty arises for those uh, who are not familiar with that, who are unfamiliar with this kind of communication, with the online teaching and learning process. But since the pandemic has lasted for over a year, and now coming to the third year, over 2 years, yeah, and then it seems that the students are getting used with this, yeah, and they try to get the smartphones to access the classes and then to operate the PCs and then to use Zoom, Google Form, Google Plus, and also WebEx. Yeah. And the good things is that now the students, either in the rural areas and in the cities, they are familiar with gadgets. Yeah. That's what I can say, Ibu. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again for the answer, Dr. Sri. Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic has put us into this situation where we are doing things we did not expect to do a few years ago. So as far as we are concerned, this is an uncharted water for all of us. But I'm glad that we are adjusting very nicely to the situation, and we are able to host a webinar like this, even though we are not meeting physically. So that is definitely one good thing that comes out of this predicament. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Thank you for actively listening throughout the session that Dr. Sri has conducted just now. I hope that you have learned something beneficial, something that is going to propel you to achieve even greater success, not only in teaching, but also in scholarly work, writing, publication, and so on. Please be on the lookout for more webinar series that us universities are going to organize in the future. Once again, thank you to all lecturers and staff members from Universitas Tidar, from Universitas Negeri Semarang, and also from UiTM Melaka, Malaysia. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great iftar, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget, before you leave, don't forget to fill in the attendance form. Once again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stay safe, stay negative, COVID-wise, and we will see you soon, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
so much, Bu, Dr. Sri. Thank you for everyone, for joining us today.